The phone rang just past midnight. I almost didn't answer. Unknown number. Wrong timing. Wrong feeling, but something in me said pick up. Hello? For a second, there was only static. Then, her voice. Ethan? I froze. That name hadn't sounded like that in years. Clara? A pause, then a shaky laugh. You still recognize me, I swallowed hard. It's not a common voice to forget. I didn't think you'd answer, she said softly. I almost didn't. Then why did you? Curiosity, I said. Or stupidity. Take your pick, she sighed. Still the same sarcasm. And you're still calling at odd hours. I didn't know who else to call, she said quickly, desperation leaking through the line. I need your help. I laughed under my breath. You have a husband for that. Remember? Ethan, please, don't, I said. You don't get to say my name like that anymore. Her voice trembled. This isn't about us. It's serious. I leaned back on the couch, eyes fixed on the ceiling. There is no us, Clara. You ended that a long time ago. I know, she whispered. But I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate. The words stung more than they should have. You always ask when you're desperate, never when you're honest. Silence. Then a quiet sniff. You sound angry. I'm not, I said. I just remembered too much. I didn't call to fight. Then why did you call? She hesitated. I can't say it over the phone. Then don't. Ethan, please meet me once. Just once. No. Please. No, Clara. She exhaled, shaky. You still hate me. I don't hate you, I said. I just don't believe you. Her breathing faltered. You used to. Yeah, that was before you left me for my best friend. That's not fair. It's accurate. A small sob escaped her. You think I wanted things to end like that? I think you wanted what you wanted, I said. And you got it. He's not... She stopped herself. He's different now. I'm sure he is. He's cold, distant. We barely talk. And this is my problem because... I don't know, she said, her voice cracking. I just needed to talk to someone who remembers who I was before all this. I clenched my jaw. You mean before you called me too simple for your world? She gasped. You still remember that? Hard to forget the moment someone tells you love isn't enough. Ethan. Don't, I said again. You don't get to rewrite it now. The silence stretched, heavy and familiar. Finally, she whispered, You sound different. I am, I said. That's what pain does. I didn't mean to hurt you. You did anyway. I'm sorry. You're years late. Her voice softened to a tremor. I thought you'd moved on. I thought so too, I said quietly. Until you called. The line went dead silent. I could hear her breathing, uneven, fragile. The same sound she made the night she left. She finally whispered, Do you ever miss me? I closed my eyes. I miss who I thought you were. The air between us cracked. Ethan, please, she said, just meet me tomorrow. I'll explain everything, 1 hour. That's all I'm asking. I don't owe you that. Not for me, she said. For closure, I almost laughed. Closure is what people ask for when they want to reopen something. I'm not lying this time. Good, I said. Then you'll survive the truth alone, she sighed, broken. You've changed. I had to. I never stopped thinking about you. I wish that made a difference. I mean it. I know, I said softly. That's the problem, she went quiet. Then with a voice barely audible, she whispered, I can't have children, Ethan. The words hit harder than I expected. And Mason told me to ask you for help. I froze. Excuse me? He said you'd understand. You were always gentle with me. I stood up, heart hammering. You called me because your husband thinks I'm what? Some spare piece of your past? No, don't finish that sentence, Clara. I didn't mean it like that, she pleaded. I just thought... You thought wrong. Her voice broke completely. Please, just listen. I listened for years, I said. Now, you can listen to this. Don't call me again. Ethan, click. I hung up. My hand shook for a second, then steadied. The room was silent except for the rain tapping against the window. I stared at my reflection in the dark glass. The man looking back wasn't angry, just tired. I walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, and tried to swallow the bitterness rising in my throat. She married Mason, the same Mason who once said, "You're too soft for her, man. She needs someone who can match her fire." I laughed bitterly. "Guess your fire burned you, too." The phone buzzed again, her name flashing across the screen. I turned it face down. My chest ached, not from love, but from the memory of it. There's a special kind of pain in realizing someone still has power to hurt you after all this time. I walked to my desk, opened my old journal, and stared at the first page. Her name was still written there from a life that didn't exist anymore. I tore the page out and dropped it into the trash. I told myself I wouldn't go, but curiosity always wins the small wars inside me. The cafe smelled of burnt beans and memories. She was already there, Clara sitting by the window, hands wrapped around a cup she wasn't drinking. When she saw me, her lips curved into something between relief and regret. "You came." "Clearly," I said, sliding into the chair across from her. "You said it was urgent." "It is." I nodded at her untouched coffee. "Still pretending you like it black?" Her smile faltered. "Some habits die slowly." "Some never do," I said. She looked older, not in years but in weight, the kind of heaviness you can't hide with perfume or mascara. Her fingers trembled as she stirred nothing. "I wasn't sure you'd agree," she said. "I didn't," I replied. "My legs just brought me here before my brain stopped them." She laughed softly. "You always said that. Your heart moves faster than your logic." "Not anymore." Her eyes lowered. "You sound cold." "I learned from the best." She flinched but didn't argue. The silence between us stretched. Finally, she said, "How have you been?" "Alive," I said. "You?" "Surviving." "Congratulations," I muttered. "You both wanted luxury." "Guess you got it," she shook her head. "Money isn't comfort, Ethan." "Then maybe you should have chosen differently." Her throat tightened. "Can we not start with that?" "Then why am I here, Clara? What could you possibly want now?" She took a deep breath, voice trembling. "I can't have children." I blinked. "What?" "I've tried everything. Treatments, doctors, prayers. Nothing works. And Mason?" She hesitated. "He's frustrated, angry. He said maybe you could help." I laughed loud enough that people turned to stare. "He said what?" Her cheeks flushed. "He meant emotionally. He thinks you'd know how to calm me. You always knew how." "Right," I said, still half laughing. "Because nothing says therapy like meeting the woman who gutted me." "It's not like that," she said quickly. You just what? Needed a dose of my kindness to get through your guilt?" She reached out, hand trembling. "You're twisting it," I pulled back. "No, I'm remembering it," her voice cracked. "I didn't call for pity." "Then why did you?" "Because you're the only man I ever trusted that way," she whispered. The words hung there, soft and poisonous. I stared at her. "Trusted me? You left me?" "I made a mistake." "No, you made a choice." Tears glimmered in her eyes. "Ethan, please, I'm asking for help, not forgiveness." "Then you called the wrong person," I said. "Please," she repeated, voice breaking. "I need someone who remembers who I was before I ruined everything." "You mean before you chose him?" Her eyes fell. Yes, I leaned forward. "Let me make something clear. You can't come back when your comfort breaks." "I'm not coming back," she whispered. "Then stop looking at me like you are." Her lips parted, then closed again. I stood. "You broke me once, Clara. I won't let you use the pieces now." She grabbed my wrist. "Wait, don't go like this." "Like what?" "Like you hate me." "I don't hate you," I said. "I just finally learned where to place you in the past." Her voice softened. "I never stopped caring." "That's your punishment," I said. I walked out before she could answer. The cool air outside hit my face like a slap. I kept walking until the cafe disappeared behind me. My chest felt hollow but not shattered, more like an old wound reopening for inspection. I ended up by the river, the same place I used to take her when life still felt manageable. The water moved slow, deliberate. I spoke to the current. "You hear that?" She still thinks kindness is something she can borrow. The river didn't care, and maybe that's why I liked it. My phone buzzed. A message from her. "I didn't mean to hurt you today. I just needed someone who remembers the real me." I deleted it without opening the rest. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. Sleep wouldn't come. Her words replayed in fragments. You're the only man I ever trusted that way. I can't have children. Mason told me to ask you. The absurdity twisted into anger, then into something quieter, pity. I turned on the lamp and grabbed my journal. The same one I swore I'd stop writing in. I wrote, she doesn't want me back. She wants the version of herself that existed when I loved her. I stared at the sentence until it blurred. At 3 a.m., Sophie texted, "You awake?" "Yeah," I replied. "You saw her, didn't you?" "Yeah, and?" "She wants help." I walked away. Good. Keep walking. I smiled faintly, trying. She sent one more line. "You can't heal in the same place you got sick." I turned off my phone. The room fell into silence again, heavy but bearable. I whispered into the dark, "You broke me once. I won't let you use the pieces now." But sleep still wouldn't come. Somewhere in the back of my mind, her trembling voice kept echoing. I can't have children. You're the only man I ever trusted that way. I pressed a pillow against my face and exhaled. You shouldn't have called me, Clara. Outside, the city kept breathing. I tried to work the next day, but my mind refused to cooperate. Every click of the keyboard sounded like her voice. By afternoon, I gave up. I turned off my laptop, leaned back, and let the ghosts come. Why now? I whispered. Why after all this time? The answer came as memories. I was back in that tiny apartment, the one with the flickering kitchen light. Clara was sitting on the edge of the couch, clutching her purse. "I'm sorry," she had said, eyes down. "For what?" I'd asked, pretending not to know. "For everything. Be specific." She hesitated, then whispered, "Mason can give me the life I want." The words hit harder than a slap. "You're serious?" "I love you, Ethan. I really do, but love isn't enough anymore." "It was enough yesterday," I'd said. She turned away. Yesterday, I believed that too. I'd laughed then, a bitter sound. "So what am I now? A lesson?" She'd looked up, tears ready to fall. "You'll understand someday." "No," I'd said. "Someday you'll understand." That was the night she left. And a week later, Mason came to see me. He'd walked in without knocking, as if betrayal came with entitlement. "Don't take it personally, brother," he'd said. "It's just life." "Life?" I'd repeated. "Yeah," he'd shrugged. "You were good for her heart, but not for her plans." I'd wanted to hit him. Instead, I poured him a drink, because anger felt too small for the size of what I'd lost. Back in the present, I rubbed my temples. Even after all these years, the scenes played like film reels I couldn't turn off. The sound of the door opening snapped me back. Sophie walked in, holding 2 cups of coffee. "You look like you've been wrestling ghosts." "Maybe I have." She handed me a cup. "Let me guess." Clara called again. "Just once. Enough to ruin everything again." "You met her, didn't you?" I nodded. "At the cafe." Sophie sighed. "You never learn?" I thought I could handle it, and I couldn't, I admitted. She sat across from me, arms folded. "You keep bleeding from wounds you pretend are healed." I looked at her. "That's poetic." "It's true," she said. "You talk like you're over her, but one word from her and you're back to square one." "I'm not back," I said. "I'm just stuck between forgetting and forgiving. Same thing if you never move." I stared into my coffee. She asked for my help. "Can you believe that?" Sophie frowned. "What kind of help?" "She can't have children." Mason told her to come to me. Sophie froze. "You're kidding." "I wish I was." Her voice rose. "And what did you say?" "That she broke me once." "I'm not letting her use the pieces now." "Good." Sophie's eyes softened. "You needed to say that." "I did," I said. "But it didn't feel good." "Why?" "Because part of me still wants to be the man who could fix her." Sophie leaned forward. "You can't fix people who enjoy watching you fall apart." I laughed quietly. "When did you become the wise one?" "Since you stopped listening to logic," she said. You keep replaying the same story, hoping for a different ending. I think I just wanted acknowledgement, I said. Something to prove I wasn't crazy for loving her. You weren't crazy, Sophie said softly. You were kind. She was careless. There's a difference. I nodded, the truth settling like dust. Mason used to say I was too emotional for this world. Maybe you were too human for his, she said. Her words cut through me, gentle and sharp at once. You ever wonder, I said, if forgiveness is just another form of weakness? No, she replied. Forgiveness is freedom. Weakness is pretending you don't care. I took a slow sip, letting her words sink in. Finally, I said, you're right. I usually am. We both laughed. It felt foreign but good. She stood. You have to let it end, Ethan, for real this time. I know. Do you? She asked. Because every time you reopen that door, you hand her the key to your peace. I leaned back. Then I'll change the lock, she smiled. There's my brother. After she left, I sat alone again, but the silence felt different, less heavy, more honest. I pulled out my old journal, the one I hadn't touched since the night of the call. I flipped through the pages filled with heartbreak and questions that never got answers. I turned to a blank page and wrote, I am not the man she broke. I am the man who survived it. Then I closed the book. I picked up my phone, scrolled through my contacts until I reached her name. My thumb hovered over delete. For a long minute, I just stared at it. Then, quietly, I pressed the button. The screen blinked once. Empty. For the first time in years, I felt light. I whispered to myself, the past isn't chasing me anymore. I've been running toward it. Then I stood, walked to the window, and opened it. The air outside smelled like rain and release, and in that simple moment, I decided I was done replaying a story that had already ended. My phone rang just after midnight. Unknown number. I almost ignored it, but something, maybe habit, maybe fate, made me swipe. Ethan? Her voice was shaky, thin, almost unrecognizable. Maya? She sniffed. Yeah, I didn't know who else to call. My heart slowed, but my fingers clenched. It's been months, I know. Leo's gone. He left me. For a second, the room felt smaller. I stood by the window, the city lights blinking like distant judgment. What do you want me to say? Nothing, she said quickly. I just need to talk, please. There was a pause. I could have hung up. I should have. But something inside me, the part that used to believe people could be fixed, kept me quiet. Where? I finally asked. The cafe? The one you used to take me to. Please, Ethan, just this once. The cafe hadn't changed. Same dull lights, same worn-out tables, same smell of burnt coffee. What had changed was her. Maya looked smaller, fragile in a gray coat that swallowed her frame. Her eyes were swollen, her lipstick smudged. When she saw me, her lips trembled. You came. Curiosity, I said flatly. Not nostalgia. She nodded like she deserved that. Maybe she did. We sat in silence for a while. The air between us was heavy, years of words unsaid pressing down. Finally, she spoke. He used me, Ethan. I didn't flinch. Leo? She nodded. He said he loved me. Promised me everything. Then he took what he wanted. My trust, my money, my faith, and left. That sounds familiar, I said before I could stop myself. She winced. I deserve that. I leaned back, my voice calm, detached. You knew what you were doing. You made your choice. Tears pooled in her eyes. I thought I was choosing love. No, I said quietly. You were choosing excitement. You wanted the rush of something new. You called it love so you wouldn't feel guilty. Her fingers shook as she held her cup. You think I don't hate myself enough? I met her eyes. Hating yourself doesn't undo anything. It just keeps the wound open. She bit her lip, trembling. Do you hate me? That question lingered. Months ago, I would have said yes. But now the anger felt like dust, something I'd already swept away. No, I said. Hate needs energy. I've moved past that. She looked stunned, almost offended by my peace. How? How can you just move on? By realizing you don't deserve space in my head anymore, her voice cracked. You make it sound so easy. It wasn't, I said. It took every night of silence, every day I wanted to scream. But one morning I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about you for hours. That's when I knew it was over. She wiped her eyes. You sound different. I am. Maya looked down, twisting the napkin in her hands. Leo told me once. He never really loved me. He said he wanted to see if he could take something that wasn't his. I stayed quiet. She laughed bitterly. Guess he won. No, I said. He lost the moment he needed to take something to feel important. Her breathing hitched. And me? You lost when you thought betrayal would make you happy. She nodded slowly, tears slipping down her cheeks. You were right. All those things you said about him. I just didn't listen. I didn't expect you to, I admitted. People only listen after the noise destroys everything. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing quietly. I ruined everything, didn't I? I looked at her, really looked at her. Once those same hands held mine. Once I believed those tears would never come because of me. Now all I felt was a quiet detachment, like watching an old film whose ending I already knew. You ruined us, I said softly, but you didn't ruin me. Not anymore, she looked up. You've changed. Pain does that, I said. It teaches you what peace actually costs. For a moment, she just stared at me, like trying to memorize the version of me she never knew existed. Do you ever miss me? She asked. I thought about it. Her laugh, her perfume, the nights I mistook comfort for love. I miss who I thought you were, I said finally. But she never really existed. Her lips quivered. If I could go back. You can't, I interrupted. Neither can I, she nodded, defeated. I wanted to say sorry. You already did, I said. And I already forgave you. You just weren't around to hear it, she blinked in confusion. When? The day I stopped caring. Her sob turned into a broken whisper. You really don't hate me. I don't have to, I said, standing up. You're already doing that for both of us. I left money on the table, enough for her coffee, maybe a cab home. She didn't look up as I walked past her, but I heard her whisper. You were always the better one. Outside, the rain had started again. I stepped under it, letting it soak into my shirt, my hair, my bones. The cold felt clean, like absolution. I didn't look back through the cafe window, though I knew she was still sitting there, crying into her cup. Realizing the silence I gave her wasn't cruelty, it was closure. As I crossed the street, a thought surfaced. Quiet but sharp. She wanted me to hate her because hate means you still care, but I didn't, and that was my freedom. The night air was heavy, but I breathed easily. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled, soft and low, like the sky itself was letting go. I smiled faintly. Not out of triumph, but peace. The rain had stopped weeks ago, but something in me still felt washed clean. Maybe it was the quiet. Maybe it was Lena. She became a constant, showing up with 2 coffees every morning like it was routine. You take too much sugar, she said once, sliding my cup across the desk. I like things sweet, I replied. She smirked. Yeah, but not too sweet, right? Learned that the hard way? I blinked, caught off guard. You don't hold back, do you? Why should I? She asked, sipping hers. People waste years pretending to be polite when honesty could save them. I leaned back in my chair. Honesty can also burn bridges. Then maybe they weren't worth crossing. That was Lena. Soft voice, sharp truths. She didn't dig into my past, but she saw right through its shadows. Over the next few weeks, the rhythm of my life changed. No dramatic shifts, just lighter mornings, quieter evenings, steadier breaths. We'd talk about everything except the one thing that started it all. One afternoon, we sat outside the cafe, sunlight filtering through the awning. She watched people pass by while I stared at the steam rising from my cup. You still think about her, don't you? She asked gently. I shrugged. Sometimes, but not in the way I used to. What way is that? The kind that hurts, she nodded. Pain fades when you stop feeding it. I smiled faintly. Guess I'm finally starving it. She tilted her head. If you met her again, what would you say? Nothing. Nothing? Silence would say it for me. Her smile grew small but knowing. You sound peaceful. I'm learning. Lena tapped her fingers on the table. You know, peace isn't loud. It's when you stop explaining yourself to people who never listened. That's poetic, I said. She laughed. I'm full of borrowed wisdom. My friend Ava says things like that all the time. Ava? My cousin, she said. She's the kind of person who forgives everyone, even people who don't deserve it. I thought about that. Sounds exhausting. It is, Lena said. But she says forgiveness isn't for them. It's for her. Then maybe she's onto something, I said quietly. Lena studied me. You're not angry anymore, are you? No, I said. Anger's heavy. I carried it too long. I just don't feel anything toward her now. Indifference, Lena said. That's the real ending. We sat there, watching a couple argue across the street, the kind of argument that used to feel familiar. Now it looked distant, like a movie scene from a life I didn't belong to anymore. Funny, I said. I used to think love was supposed to be loud, constant calls, endless declarations. But maybe it's just quiet understanding, Lena smiled. Like this? I looked at her. The calm in her eyes, the easy silence between us. Yeah, I said softly. Like this. That night I got a text. Maya, I saw you with her. You look happy. I hope she treats you right. I stared at the screen for a long time, not because I didn't know what to say, but because I didn't need to say anything. For the first time, her words didn't pull me backward. They didn't sting. They didn't echo. They just existed, harmless, weightless. I locked my phone and set it face down on the table. The silence that followed wasn't empty. It was full of peace, of distance, of quiet victory. A few days later, Lena noticed. You seem lighter, she said. Maybe I am. You finally text her back? I smiled. No, I finally didn't need to. Her eyes lit up. That's progress. I didn't realize silence could be an answer. It's the best kind, she said. The kind they can't argue with. We walked along the riverside after work, the city lights flickering on the water. For once, I didn't feel the need to fill the air. She didn't either. When she finally spoke, it was soft. You ever think we meet people just to learn how to let them go? I nodded. And sometimes we meet others to remind us how to stay. Lena smiled at that, her hair catching the wind. You think I'm one of those? I looked at her, really looked at her, but then said, You're the calm after everything else. She laughed lightly. That's not very romantic. I don't think I'm looking for romance anymore, I admitted. I'm just looking for real. Then maybe that's what this is, she said. We walked in silence, the kind that felt easy, the kind that didn't need fixing. Later that night, I opened my journal, something I hadn't done in months. I wrote one line. Some people break you to teach you what healing feels like. Then I closed it, smiling faintly. Maya was somewhere out there chasing apologies or ghosts. I didn't know. But she no longer lived in the corners of my mind. The space she once filled now belonged to laughter, to quiet moments, to the warmth of someone who didn't demand pain to prove love. Maybe this was what peace really looked like. Not fireworks, not revenge, just soft endings and new beginnings. Lena had once told me, You don't owe anyone a response that cost you your calm. Tom burst into my office around noon, holding his phone like it was breaking news. Did you see it? He said, eyes wide. See what? Leo Harris. He's finished, I frowned. What do you mean finished? Tom grinned in disbelief. Corporate fraud. Misused client funds, fake invoices, everything. The company's letting him take the fall. It's all over social media. I leaned back slowly, letting the words sink in. He always thought he was untouchable. Karma's doing its job, Tom said. I gave a small nod. It usually does, he hesitated. You okay? Yeah, I said quietly. I think I am. That evening, the city was drowning in lights and noise, but inside my apartment, everything was still. I made coffee, scrolled through the headlines, and saw his name again and again. Leo Harris, fraud, scandal, collapse. The world that once adored him now tore him apart. A strange calm settled in me. Not satisfaction, just closure. I thought about calling Maya, then dismissed the idea instantly. The past didn't need witnesses anymore. It was close to midnight when the knock came. Loud, uneven. I hesitated before opening the door. Leo stood there, unshaven, eyes glassy, shirt untucked, the smell of alcohol heavy around him. He gave a crooked grin. Hey, old friend, I didn't move. You shouldn't be here. I didn't know where else to go, he muttered, stumbling slightly as he stepped inside without waiting for permission. He looked around like he was searching for a piece of his old self in my quiet apartment. Still neat, huh? Always the organized one, I crossed my arms. What do you want, Leo? He dropped onto the couch, rubbing his temples. Everything's gone, Ethan, the job, the money. Her, Maya? He nodded, laughing bitterly. She left the moment things got bad. Guess love has conditions, huh? I said nothing. He looked up at me, eyes unfocused. You must be happy now. Watching me fall apart. No, I said calmly. I just don't care. That made him flinch. You really don't, do you? I shook my head. You stopped existing to me the day you betrayed me. Whatever's happening now, that's between you and the choices you made. He leaned forward, voice slurred. She was supposed to love me. I studied him quietly. You wanted her to worship you, Leo, not love you. He froze. What's the difference? Love accepts you, I said. Worship owns you. You never wanted a partner. You wanted an audience. He stared, blinking hard. You think I don't know that now? Knowing doesn't mean changing, I said. He laughed again, hollow and cracked. You always talked like a philosopher. Guess that's how you survived. No, I said softly. I survived because I learned silence hurts louder than revenge. He looked around the room. The books, the faint hum of the city through the window. You seem peaceful? I am. He groaned, burying his face in his hands. I wanted everything you had. The calm, the respect, the life that looked so small but felt so safe. I wanted to prove I could take it and make it bigger. And did you? I asked. He lifted his head. No, I ruined it. I ruined her, me. Everything, I sighed. That's what happens when you build on someone else's ashes. His voice cracked. You think I didn't love her? I think you loved the idea of winning, I said. And when you realized she wasn't a prize, you didn't know what to do. He slumped back, silent. The seconds stretched thin between us. After a while, he muttered, You're better than me. No, I said. I just stopped needing to prove I was. He gave a weak smile. Guess that's the difference between peace and pride. Exactly. He sat there for a long time, staring at nothing. When he finally spoke, it was barely a whisper. I keep replaying it, you know? That day in the cafe, you walking out. She called your name and you didn't turn around? I remember, I said. She said you'd come back. She swore you would. I didn't. He looked at me, almost pleading. Why? Because I wanted to live, I said simply. Not bleed forever. He nodded slowly, eyes glassy. You did, huh? You lived. I'm still learning how, I replied. He leaned back, staring at the ceiling. You think I deserve this? It's not about what you deserve, I said. It's about what you chose. Leo laughed softly, but it broke halfway. You always did talk in riddles. Maybe. But you understand this one, don't you? He swallowed hard. Yeah, silence again. Just the sound of rain starting outside, faint but steady. Finally, he stood, swaying slightly. Guess I should go. You should, I said. At the door, he paused. You ever think about what might have happened if we hadn't... No, I interrupted. Because we did. He looked down, nodded once, and walked into the rain. I watched him disappear down the street, a man who once burned too bright, now barely casting a shadow. For a long time, I stood there, listening to the rain hit the pavement, wondering if he'd ever understand that what destroyed him wasn't betrayal or karma. It was ego. Tom texted me an hour later. You hear about Leo? Heard he's leaving town. Starting over somewhere, I typed back, good. Maybe he'll learn what peace costs. Then I put my phone away, sat by the window, and closed my eyes. The rain sounded softer now. Not like sorrow, like cleansing, and for the first time in years, I realized I didn't feel anger, pity, or victory. Just stillness. Leo Harris had fallen, and I hadn't lifted a finger. The message came in the afternoon. Maya, can we meet? Just once, please. I stared at the screen for a long time. Part of me wanted to ignore it, but curiosity isn't easily silenced, so I said yes. Not for closure, I already had that, but for clarity. The park was quiet when I got there. The air smelled like rain that never came. I saw her sitting on a bench under an oak tree, her hands twisting the strap of her purse. She stood when she saw me, her voice trembling. "You came." "I did. I didn't think you would." "Then why ask?" She bit her lip. "Because I needed to say it." Out loud, I nodded once. "Then say it." She exhaled shakily, eyes darting toward the ground. "It was all a game." I said nothing. "I thought breaking you would make me feel powerful," she continued, her words spilling faster now. "I was angry, jealous, stupid. Leo made it sound like you were the safe one, the boring one. I wanted to prove him wrong." I stared at her, the weight of her confession hanging in the air. "And did you?" She blinked, confused. "Did I what?" "Prove him wrong." Her shoulders slumped. "No, I proved him right. The silence that followed was thick. For once, I didn't fill it. I let it sit between us. Her guilt, my calm, the ghost of what we used to be. Finally, she whispered, "You must hate me." I shook my head. "No," she frowned. "You should. Hate needs energy," I said softly. "You took that from me long ago." Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't know how cruel I'd become until I saw myself through you." "You didn't see me," I said. "You saw a mirror that reflected what you wanted to believe, that love makes you weak." "You were wrong." Her breath hitched. "You loved me. Really loved me. Why didn't you fight for me?" "Because love isn't supposed to be a war," I said. "And if I'd fought, I'd have lost more than you. I'd have lost myself." She covered her face with her hands. "I ruined everything." "No," I said. "You ruined what wasn't meant to last." She looked up, mascara streaking down her cheeks. "You sound so different." "Pain teaches tone," I replied. "You wouldn't recognize my voice if I'd never broken." Her lip trembled. "Leo's gone." "Everyone's gone. I don't even know who I am anymore." "Then maybe that's your beginning," I said. "The same way losing you was mine." She reached for my hand. I stepped back. "I just want to make it right," she said, voice breaking. "You can't fix something you chose to destroy," I said. "You can only learn from it." Tears spilled freely now. "You won't even forgive me?" "I already did," I said. Her eyes widened. "When?" "The moment I stopped caring about the apology." She shook her head in disbelief. "You can't mean that." "I do," I said. "Forgiveness isn't about you, Maya. It's about letting go of everything that used to control me." She sobbed quietly. "You make it sound so easy." "It wasn't," I admitted. "It took time to realize that closure doesn't come from hearing sorry. It comes from understanding I don't need it." Maya wiped her eyes, but more tears followed. "You used to be so gentle." "I still am," I said. "Just not toward the things that hurt me." She tried to smile through her tears. "You always knew how to turn pain into poetry." "It's not poetry," I said. "It's survival." Her voice broke again. "If I could undo it all." "You can't," I interrupted. "None of us can." She stared at the ground. "Then what do I do now?" "Live," I said. "The punishment isn't what happens to you. It's what you remember." She nodded slowly, her breathing uneven. "You're not angry at me." "You're not even cold." "You're just done?" "I was done a long time ago," I said. "You just noticed it now." Her hand brushed against the bench beside her. "I miss the version of you that loved me." "He doesn't exist anymore," I said quietly. "He grew up." Her tears fell harder. "You sound just like the kind of man I prayed you'd never become. And you became exactly the kind of person I used to save." She flinched, covering her face. "I deserve that," I sighed. "You deserve peace. But it's not my job to give it to you." She nodded weakly, whispering, "You mistook kindness for weakness. That's how you lost." I stared at her for a moment, then said softly, "No, Maya. You mistook my love for blindness. That's how you lost." Her sob was small but raw, echoing under the trees. I turned to leave. As I walked away, I didn't look back. The sound of her crying trailed behind me, not like guilt, like closure. There was no revenge in my chest, no pride, no pleasure. Just a strange lightness, the kind that follows when you stop carrying someone else's ghosts. By the time I reached my car, the first drops of rain began to fall. I smiled faintly at the sky. Maybe it was cleansing both of us. Later that night, my phone buzzed. Lena. Sometimes forgiveness isn't mercy, it's freedom. I stared at the message for a long moment. then typed back, "You're right." Before I could hit send, I stopped, smiled to myself, and deleted the reply. Some words didn't need to be spoken anymore. I set my phone aside, leaned back, and closed my eyes. The rain outside tapped against the window, steady and soft, like peace had finally found its rhythm. I hadn't seen Mrs. Hall in years. The small bookstore smelled the same: dust, old pages, and something warm like time refusing to move forward. She looked up from behind the counter, eyes widening when she saw me. "Ethan?" I smiled faintly. "It's been a while." "Good heavens," she said, adjusting her glasses. "You look different." "I feel different," I said. "That's probably the better part." She laughed softly, still as polite as ever. "What brings you here?" I reached into my bag and placed an old novel on the counter. Its corners were worn, the cover slightly faded. "This belongs to you, or rather, to someone who borrowed it years ago." Mrs. Hall squinted. "Maya?" I nodded. "She lent it to me. Said I'd love the ending." I never finished it. Her expression softened. "You came all the way here just to return this?" "Not for the book," I said quietly. "For the peace that comes with returning things that don't belong to me anymore." She smiled, the kind of smile that saw through people. "You did what most can, Ethan. You let go." I looked around the store. Every shelf, every book reminded me of the years I spent trying to hold on, to people, to memories, to pain that defined me. "Letting go doesn't happen all at once," I said. "It's more like learning how to stop picking at the same wound." Mrs. Hall nodded knowingly. "You're wiser now." "I just stopped mistaking survival for living," I said. She chuckled. "That's wisdom." As I turned to leave, she called after me. "Ethan? Yeah? You're allowed to be happy, you know. You've earned it." I smiled, genuinely this time. "I'm getting there." That evening, I walked down to the pier. The sky was heavy with gray, clouds swallowing the last hints of sunset. The sea smelled like rain and memories, and somehow both felt the same, old and cleansing. Lena was already there, leaning against the railing, her hair tied loosely, a cup of coffee in her hand. "You're late," she said without looking at me. I stopped by the bookstore. "Returning your usual ghosts?" "Something like that," she smiled, finally turning to face me. "You still hate the rain?" "Not anymore," I said. She raised an eyebrow. "Really? The guy who used to sprint for cover at the first drop?" "I guess I learned the rain doesn't ruin you," I said. "It just shows who's willing to stand in it with you." She stared at me for a moment, eyes soft. "You've changed." "I had to," I said. "Otherwise, I'd still be the man waiting for apologies that never mattered." She handed me the spare cup she brought. "Black coffee. No sugar," I smirked. "You remembered." Hard to forget the guy who used to drown his pain in caffeine and sarcasm. "Don't forget irony, too," I said. She laughed quietly. "You really are lighter now." I took a sip, staring out at the waves. Maybe peace just tastes like this. Simple, bitter, but real. We stood in silence for a while, watching the water darken as the first raindrops began to fall. The wind carried the scent of salt and storm. "You ever think about her?" she asked suddenly. "Sometimes," I said, not out of longing, just curiosity. Like looking at an old scar and remembering how deep it was. "And Leo? He taught me something," I said. "What's that?" "That you can steal love, but not loyalty. You can take someone's time, but never their truth." Lena nodded slowly. "So what's your truth now?" I looked at her, the faint drizzle softening the world around us. "That pain doesn't make you deep. Healing does," she smiled. "That's something Maya would never understand." "Maybe she does now," I said quietly. "But that's her story, not mine." The rain grew heavier, dotting her shoulders and hair. She held out her hand, palm up, letting the drops fall against her skin. "Still don't like umbrellas?" "Never needed one," I said, stepping closer. "I've got you." Her laugh was soft, real, the kind that fills empty spaces without trying. Our fingers brushed, then intertwined, like it was always meant to be that way. No drama, no promises, just the quiet certainty of two people standing where storms once raged. "You think this is what peace feels like?" she asked. I nodded. "Yeah, not fireworks, just stillness after the noise." The rain kept falling, washing away everything that didn't matter anymore. The names, the anger, the ghosts. I turned to her. You know, Mrs. Hall said something today. Oh? What's that? She told me I did what most people can't. I let go. And she's right, Lena said softly. Funny thing, I added. Letting go doesn't feel like losing. It feels like breathing again. She squeezed my hand gently. That's what happens when you stop chasing what's gone. The wind shifted, carrying the sound of the waves crashing against the pier. I closed my eyes for a moment, letting it all sink in. The rain, the peace, the woman beside me. Maya's face no longer haunted my memory. Leo's voice no longer echoed. The past had finally run out of places to hide, and for the first time I wasn't looking back. I looked at Lena, calm, grounded, real, and smiled. She thought Leo loved her, I said quietly. Until his truth broke her illusions. Lena tilted her head. And you? I thought pain defined me, I said. But it didn't. It refined me, she smiled. That's beautiful. I looked out at the sea again, rain glistening on the surface like scattered glass. But fate didn't punish her, it healed me. Sometimes the greatest revenge is peace. Lena leaned her head on my shoulder. You sound like a man who finally forgave the world. Maybe I did, I said. Or maybe I just stopped needing it to apologize. The rain fell harder now, but I didn't move. I let it cover me completely, soaking through every layer until I couldn't tell the difference between cold and clean. I took her hand again and whispered, the man I was loved, chaos. The man I became loves calm. She smiled through the rain. Then don't lose him. I won't, I said. Not this time. And as the waves crashed against the pier and the storm hummed like music, I knew the story was over. Not because I found someone new, but because I finally found myself.